This is Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium.
Today's guest is Jeremy Asbrock. He is from Nashville, Tennessee. He has played with a lot of really cool bands, Ace Frehley Band. He's played with Jon Corabi. He's played with Rock City Machine Company and many others. It's a pleasure to have you on, Jeremy.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so happy to interview you because I had seen you a couple of months back and we happened to be at Dingbats, one of my favorite places. And it was a meet and greet with the guys from Ace Frehley Band, Matt Starr, my friend, Ryan Cook, my friend, and then meeting you. And then we had the chance not just to meet, but then to watch you guys play on stage. And I also had an extra added special occasion of being backstage when you guys played in Connecticut. And Ace was there. So to see you guys playing, to see you guys in rehearsal, to see you backstage, and then on top of it, to see you guys play that night. You actually played the same night with my friends in Aldo Novo. So, so it was like, especially for me, because I had never really gotten that close to Ace and been a huge fan, just like many other people. You know, it's just incredible. His career, his life, and especially the impact on the fans. So I really, give you guys a lot of credit to go out there and to kind of tell stories about Ace and to continue to play his music. So I just wanted to add that because that's really very special, especially to his fans. So thank you again for being on.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's important for us to help keep his memory and his music alive. I mean, otherwise you pretty much just got the guys in Kiss doing it, and their agenda is the band Kiss, understandably so. But, Ace had a little more music outside of that and just his own persona, and, somebody's got to do it.
Yes, and I'm glad you guys are doing it, so that's really great. I know you hail from Nashville, Tennessee. I have some cousins in Nashville, also in the music business. What was it like growing up in Nashville? I mean, that's like the heart of rock and roll, heart of country, heart of all music.
Well, it certainly was not the heart of rock and roll back then. I mean, Nashville was very much a country town back then. I mean, concerts still came here, but we also got passed over a lot because back then Memphis was the largest city and Memphis got every concert. There were some rock bands here, but the rock scene wasn't really that noteworthy. So it really didn't start blossoming until, around the mid 2000s. And then people started moving here, and then they started coming here in droves because when word got out that, there was cheap real estate here and recording studios. And at that point, that was kind of when like the modern country thing started kind of topping the charts. And a lot of those guys heard 80s rock in it because it's true. You kind of listen to modern country and you hear Def Leppard, they all saw dollar signs like, I'm going to go write country songs. And then it got a little crazy. But at the same time, I never had to move. Like they all came here.
Yeah.
So for about 5 years, I co-hosted a show called The Rock and Roll Residency. And it was sort of like the epicenter of the rock scene. That's kind of where everybody hung out. We got to jam with a lot of the people we watched on MTV growing up. And it was a cool scene that brought all of the rockers together. And since then, a lot of them have did their time here and then they moved away, But no, growing up, it really wasn't noteworthy at all.
So being young, picking up the guitar, did you just start playing country because of where you were living or?
No, I had nothing to do with country. I just happened to be outside the city where, that all came from. No, I discovered music because of Kiss. I bought a Kiss record from a kid in my backyard when I was 4. And from that moment, well, my brother told me, so he came into my backyard and he had a Live 2, both records without the gatefold. And he was like, hey, man, I'll sell you these for 50 cents a piece. So I ran in the house, asked Mom for some money. She gave me 50 cents to buy one of them. And my brother told me to buy side 3 and 4 because it had Shout It Out Loud. And then we went in the house. I put it on, Shout It Out Loud. And I mean, literally from the moment the band kicked in, I knew that whatever that is, because I didn't know what live bands were. I didn't know concerts. I didn't know anything. I just knew that I had to be part of whatever that energy is. And I had Kiss tunnel vision for many years until, I discovered some other bands and got a guitar, and, my world opened up a little bit, but it really started with Shout It Out Loud.
That's amazing for me in particular, because it's almost like the first album you held ended up being music that you played in your professional career. I mean, it's like surreal.
It really is a trip.
Yeah,
it totally
surreal.
is.
Yeah,
it is. I do have that crazy story that starts when you're a little boy, and then you wind up fully entrenched in that world. Not just once but twice. With Gene and then with Ace. I mean, the odds of that happening twice are so small, and they were my two favorite guys in Kiss too. I mean, I loved the whole band, but like it was Ace and Gene.
That's amazing. So Ace and Gene, okay. So when you think of when you started to play guitar, what were your influences other than those two guys? Were there because growing up in the 80s, like I grew up in the 80s, we had MTV. You could just turn that on and watch the guys with their fingering.
That was my world. I mean, I watched MTV in mass quantities. I mean, I sort of belong to my brother's generation. My brother is 6 years older, and I sort of related to kids his age and his friends a little more than mine. I got into it really young. So, in 1983 and 84, when heavy metal really broke out, I was there with all of it. I'm in third grade taking Circus and Hit Parader to school. I loved Motley Crue and Van Halen and Rat and Dokken and Quiet Riot and Twisted Sister. And I mean, Scorpions, all of that, man. Summer of 84 was just an amazing time for hard rock. And I mean, I was right there in it. I had a guitar then, and that's just, the stuff I was trying to learn how to play. It kind of took a couple years before my fingers could catch up to with my brain.
Did you have any formal lessons, or did you just kind of? Yeah.
I started lessons when I was 8, and it was a much older guy, and he was, teaching me chords and trying to teach me 60s songs that I wouldn't really get into until, I was a little older. And then I had a second teacher who wanted to teach me to read music, and that's just not what I wanted to do. And then a store opened in my hometown, Smyrna, and it was a guy that was my brother's age that gave lessons, and he was into all of that stuff. And he started teaching me the songs I wanted to learn and the stuff I wanted to learn. And that's when it really clicked. And then by the time I was a teenager, he kind of didn't have much left to teach me. It was just about putting together a band and learning that aspect of it. Not, okay, and here's the Mixolydian mode of this scale. And it just, I didn't care about all of that. I just wanted to play rock music. A lot of it's melody based. I don't know. I liked some of those guitar players, but I didn't want to be Yngwie Malmsteen. I didn't want to be one of those virtuoso guys. I just wanted to be in a cool band with cool songs, memorable guitar solos, good choruses, good singers in the band.
And having fun. So what was your first band?
It was called Rock Bottom. Yeah.
And how did you gather together? Did you know the kids from school, or where did you find the other bandmates?
I did. They all went to high school with me. And I mean, we were pretty much the only musicians in town. So we kind of had to play together, and they were all I don't know, a little more in sync with each other. They were in the heavier side of music. They all liked Metallica and heavier metal. And I was into Poison and Van Halen. I liked bands that had fun and, had hot girls that came to their shows. But I was a great guitar player, and I looked good. So they had to let me in their band, and they were good. They were all great musicians. I mean, for a bunch of 16-year-olds, we were pretty badass.
Wow. What were your biggest gigs that you played with them?
My first gig in Nashville was at a club called The Cannery. And The Cannery is still around. It's always been a very famous club in Nashville. And I was a sophomore in high school. And the first time we played, we went on first. We went on at 9 o'clock. It was a good turnout. But the guy that booked the show, it was a thing called the six pack. So there were 6 bands. And the second time we played, which was a month later, he put us on at 10:30. and there was like 800 people there. So I'm like a sophomore in high school playing the biggest club in Nashville in front of about 800 people.
Wow. So to be that young and to play to large numbers like that, it does a little bit of a mind trip on you. So how did you feel? Like you'd never had stage fright or?
No, I've never really grappled with that.
You're very lucky because that's not always not always the answer.
I will get stage fright to this day if you give me an acoustic guitar and ask me to entertain 6 people in a room. That kind of thing, I get nervous doing, and by myself. You put me in a good band where everybody else is good too, and I don't have to get nervous that they're not going to pull their weight. But yeah, numbers never scared me.
That's great. So moving on from your high school band, what would be the next big jump or the biggest leap going into like what you would consider like, wow, I kind of feel like I'm doing this with my full life now?
So I kind of thought I was going to be a studio kind of guy. Like I really started like, because I got to do the Beatles. Like they wound up being my end all be all of music, and just reading about their creativity and how they used the studio later in their career. I kind of got into that. I was like band best friend, cheerleader to a band in town called the Shazam. And I mean, they were my best friends, and God, I loved their music so much. And I'd travel around and like help them load gear and tune guitars and whatnot. And I engineered their second record, and it was just a little too hard for 3 guys to play live. So I sort of got added on because I knew all the songs. I was a good singer. I was a good player. The singer was my best friend. And when that second record came out, it caught on in England. And then we went over there like 5 times in 1 year. We did a TV radio broadcast from Abbey Road. So I'm like in Abbey Road. I got to play the Penny Lane piano that day. And we're on like BBC One with billing over Duran Duran. We finished out the year playing at Earl's Court. And it was just like this crazy snowball that started at like a tiny little venue and ended at, their largest indoor venue at the time. And we caught on in America after that because Little Steven started playing the band a lot, and years of beating it down. The wave never broke, but we were great.
That's awesome. That's another like pinch myself moment to think that you were changing your music before you joined that band. You started to listen to the Beatles. So it's almost like everything that you projected got projected back onto you. That's
sort of been kind of the story of my life.
That's very psychic. I have to add.
Well, you kind of don't realize that stuff as it's happening. Hindsight is very 2020. So when you look back, you're like, wow, yeah, I totally manifested that.
Yes. So you have the power. So
absolutely.
I had read something and I wasn't familiar with it, but I wanted to mention it. Another band that you had been involved in was the Tummies.
Oh, yeah. So Judd and his wife Dana are, they're pretty much the drivers of that car. Judd was the bass player in the rock and roll residency, and his wife was one of our guest singers. And it was really their brainchild. They'd sit around at home and write these super 60s poppy songs, and they knew that my taste leaned that way. And my co-conspirator in the rock and roll residency, Phil, was exactly the same. I mean, he and I are like Beatle brothers. And then the drummer, Sandy Gennaro, he was in a band in the 60s, and, he's from the New York scene in the 70s, and he had been a guest a lot at the rock and roll residency too. So, they kind of had their band picked out, like the guys who would be really good at doing that stuff. And man, those songs are real fun to play. They're just super, super 60s pop.
That's neat. So when I look at your career and I look at your bio, who did you get involved with working with first? Was it Ace or was it Gene?
It was Gene. We were in Ace's band because of Gene. But so Ryan and I were in a cover band called The Big Rock Show. And The Big Rock Show had done 5 Kiss cruises in a row. So I know they had seen us and heard us at that, a few times and knew that we were pretty good. And Ryan was friends with Doc, and he had a good reputation with Doc and a good reputation with Kiss. So that when Gene was putting out the vault and he was doing these Comic-Con type things called Wizard World, they wanted him to tie in a show. So he got a hold of Ryan and asked Ryan to put together a band. And, I was kind of a shoe-in because me and Ryan were Kiss best friends, and I was already in his band. And I don't know, we just knew that was going to be an adventure we set off on together. So he got me and he asked Phil. And at the time, Gene was just going to sing and we were going to pass around the bass, but good sense prevailed. Gene played bass.
Wow. So that also must have been like a little startling to, play alongside Gene Simmons. I mean, not just his playing ability, but his reputation of being such a businessman and kind of what I've heard, a perfectionist. So a little stress maybe, right?
Man, honestly, musically, he wasn't that much of a perfectionist. He would pick songs the morning of the show to do. And as long as he had a lyric sheet, he kind of had the music back here a little bit. He was just out to have some fun. I mean, the rest of us know the Kiss catalog probably better than he does. So, we were definitely on our game, but it wasn't like, we're going to be tight, gentlemen, and you made a mistake. And it wasn't like that at all, man. He was out to just have a good time and hang out. And I found after I met him and kind of got comfortable around him, it was actually very low stress. It was just a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that is great to hear. He has been a big collaborator for a lot of people's careers. A lot of people I've had on the show have given him a lot of credit for kind of like pushing them to the front of the line a little bit because he identifies talent in people so well.
He did. And he totally gave us our space on stage and encouraged us to he didn't want us to sit back and make it all about him. He wanted it to be about us as well. He was definitely cool like that.
That's great to hear. I wanted to get to discussing some of the songs that you have previously picked out. Working with Ace Frehley was, I'm sure, a beyond moment in your career, but we had discussed a song before the interview from the Ace Kiss scene, I guess. It's the live version of Shout It Out Loud from the Alive 2 album, and you're going to tell us why you picked that to discuss as the first song.
Because it all started right there, buying side 3 and 4 of Alive 2 from that kid in my backyard, and my brother say, get that one, it has Shout It Out Loud. And then we put that song on first. And I mean, seriously, from the moment you drop the needle and the crowd are screaming their heads off, and then the bombs go off, and then the band kicks in, and it's like the door opened and my path was right there from that moment.
That is really great. That song is so recognizable. The minute you play just a couple of beats, everybody whips their head around they know that song. And that is very recognizable and I think a staple to his music. So we're going to play Shout It Out Loud, the live version from Alive 2.
If you people want a little bit of rock and roll, I said if you people want a little bit of rock and roll, shout it out loud. Yourself
You had picked another song, Trouble Will Find You.
Yeah, when Trouble Finds You. You know, I think every song on the Rock City Machine Company album is a single. It turned out better than I ever could have imagined. So it's kind of tough to pick one song, but I don't know, man. There's something about that song that I think is really, really strong. I'm proud of my solo on that one. Actually, I'm proud of my solo on all of them, but I don't know. I definitely think that song stands up pretty tall.
And what was it like working with the band? Who were the members and what was the collaboration like?
Well, it was me and Ryan and Phil, you know, and we were in Gene's band and Ace's band together. And the whole thing happened because, man, the three of us had done everything together. We had done cover bands together. We had been in Ace's band together. We'd been in Gene's band together. And people always asked us, when are you guys going to do something original? And it's like we never had any plans to do that. But we had a friend that had a label. And he kept offering, hey, man, when you guys want to make a record, man, I'll put it out. And Ryan was managing Marty Fredrickson's studio at the time. And, you know, like Marty is like a super, super hit songwriter. He's got hit songs with Aerosmith, Carrie Underwood, Buck Cherry. I mean, like Ozzy, Motley Crue, long list of production and writing credits. And he's just like, hey, man, when y'all want to do something, let me know. I'll write it and produce it with you. Like, and just one day I was just like, man, we've done everything together except that. I mean, I guess we kind of have to. And, you know, we exercised all of our options from those people and wrote all the songs with Marty. And I mean, God, it just sounds like it's like a Def Leppard record. Every song is a single.
That's awesome. So we're going to play Trouble Finds You by Rock City Machine Company.
Looking back on the wrong you've done, smoke your last cigarette.
it's also interesting, I have to say, just for the audience's sake, watching you live. It's interesting how everyone has their own style. But when I had the opportunity to see you with Ace on stage, you all kind of turned to him. You were kind of smiling with him. You all had like your own chemistry with him during certain parts of playing with him. I think he brought it out in all of you. It's kind of interesting if people go back and watch live performances with Ace.
Well, it's a mixture of a lot of things. I mean, first of all, he was our hero growing up. And I mean, me in particular, I'm a guitar player. So like, he is my guy. So there's an element of that. There's an element of band chemistry because, like, you know, by the time you saw us, we'd been in the band for 6 years or something. So, I mean, like, we're pretty rock solid as an entire unit. And you sort of know how to communicate telepathically at that point. And, you know, just experiences together. And, you know, there's just a lot of things that makes a band mesh together. And by that time, yeah, man, we were all pretty dialed in with each other.
Yes. And even that night, you know, it's interesting. I mean, you could tell he was still having fun. You realize, you know, everything he had been through in his life. You know, he came alive when he was on stage. You could see it on his face, you know, pointing out at the crowd.
I loved those nights. Those nights were fantastic because, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you every night was like that. But when they were, it was the best.
Yes. You know, I thought it was so interesting because the fan base was so alive that night in Connecticut. I was literally staring at someone who's dressed as the straw man creature, you know, the whole get up, you know, with the shoulder pads and everything and the big platform shoes, you know. The Kiss fan, I mean, they used to call it the Kiss Army. They probably still do. But, I mean, they are true blue. I mean, wow.
You know, I always thought I was one of the biggest Kiss fans in the world until I met some of the biggest Kiss fans in the world. And, yeah, man, those guys that come to the shows in the full getup, man, that's commitment.
Yes, it's also
all night and that stuff.
Oh my! But I mean, just to realize, you know, because in the '70s I never saw Kiss live. I was probably a little too little for that. But when you really realize sitting next to some of these people in current day that are dressed like that the guys in Kiss had to play, you know, an hour, 2 hour show dressed like that, you know, it just gives you so much more admiration for them, you know, to pull that off. Just the shoes alone, I would be spraining.
Oh, absolutely. I've put on jeans boots before and they are as heavy as they look. And getting back to what you just said, I mean, if you think about it, like on these later tours, these guys were like in their 50s and then their 60s doing that. And if they're doing that in the summer in those outdoor amphitheaters and like down here in the South or in the Midwest where it's 100 degrees outside, how?
Yes, and not just the clothing, but the, you know, the pan makeup, you know, they would have to like coat that on them and sweat and everything. It's just really incredible. But, you know, they had a vision and their vision is still there and still alive, and they still, you know, continue to make the impression of Kiss and everything about it. I wanted to mention someone that I had interviewed on this show who was a lot of fun when I interviewed him, and it was Jon Corabi. I know that you've done some work with him. He's kind of all over with his music. He could do blues, he could do rock, he could do anything, that guy, and he could be funny at the same time. So tell me about your experience with Jon Corabi.
I started playing with Jon actually 12 or 13 years ago. And we were kind of just touring what was like, you know, a catalog of his entire career for a while. But then we started doing the Motley Crue 94 album, you know, from top to bottom in its entirety. And there is a live record out called Live 94 that we recorded here in Nashville. I think you can stream that anywhere. And then he went and did the Dead Daisies thing, and he made a record with Marty Fredriksson, and honestly, like, it's the best thing he's ever done. It sounds like the music that I know he listens to, because there was only one thing about Jon, like the music that he put out, I just didn't think sounded like the music that I know. You know, he's a classic rock dude. He likes Led Zeppelin and like 70s radio, Three Dog Night, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Bob Seger, and, you know, stuff like that. And like, he made that record finally. So I was really happy when he asked me to like be in the band. And this was actually prior to Ace dying. Like he had a tour while I was sort of on a break with Ace, and I was going to do that. And then Ace passed, and, you know, it sort of worked out for him that, you know, I was suddenly available. And we've done a lot of shows now. We opened up for Tom Kiefer quite a bit, and we just been out doing shows. We've got a few shows left in the United States this year, and then in November we go back to Europe for 3 weeks. And I'm not sure what's on the plate for next year, but between his thing and the Ace tribute shows that I have going on, I'm pretty busy for the rest of the year.
Yes, well, I'm glad to hear it, because those are great opportunities for you, but also for the fan base that follow you. We're going to play now a song, When I Was Young, with your band, with Jon Corabi.
Looking back at the days gone by, I reminisce and wonder why. All the things I could have done when I was young. Back when my eyes were open wide, walking strong with foolish pride. Yeah, my world had just begun when I was young. Well, the clock don't stop for no one in this city, and time don't ever wait for anyone. All the dues that I paid made me what I am today. So look at what I've done when I was young. Fell in love too many times, I never seemed to get it right. I was always on the run when I was young. And I never questioned why. When love was lost and they said goodbye, I never came undone when I was young. Well, the clock don't stop for no one in this city, and time don't ever wait for anyone. All the dues that I paid made me what I am today. Look at what I've done when I was young. The years fly, they come and go. With each day we're getting old. Well, we're not the only ones. Can you hear me, son? Well, the clock don't stop for no one in this city, and time don't ever wait for anyone. All the dues that I paid made me what I am today. So look at what I've done
You know, it's so much fun to talk to you because I've never really, other than the meet and greet, I've never really had a conversation with you. You have your family, you have a lot of things going on. What would be one of the things in your life that you would feel that you can share with your family? Like either something that you could say, oh, you know, you definitely have to do this. Like I often tell people in my life, I spent 30 years in the Army, and I often tell people like, oh, I'm so lucky I got to see this, or I'm so lucky I had that opportunity. But then, you know, of course, there's opportunities I wouldn't want anyone to have, you know, being in Iraq or things like that. So what would be things that you would share with your family that you would say, oh, music gave me this, or music showed me this, or music stumped me to, you know.
Music gave me the opportunity to see the world. And that's one thing I want my kids to do. I want them to get out of their bubble and see other cultures and how other people live. Because, you know, look, I love it here. I mean, my dad was a military guy. I'm a military kid, but there's a big world out there, and I want them to see that.
What would be things in your music things that you would say, yeah, you could probably skip that, you know?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. Touring means that you're not home a lot, and there's a lot of stuff you have to miss. So, you know, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of advice for what to do and what not to do. I haven't made them carbon copies of me. So I want them to find their own things, their own paths. I've never succumbed to drugs and alcohol, but I do know lots of people that have. So I would like it if they avoid all of that stuff. Because, you know, Ace will tell you, I mean, it's definitely a roadblock.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well, it has been a pleasure to talk to you. I want to make sure you share your social media and all the ways people can get in touch with you before we discuss the last song.
Okay. Finding me is real easy. I don't have any like clever names or anything. It's just my name, Jeremy Asbrock. I've got 2 Facebook pages because my personal page is topped out and you can't have any more than 5,000 friends. You could follow it, but I can't do the friend thing on there right now. And then I have a fan page where you follow it, and I don't have a cap on that. And it's basically the same page. I put the same stuff out on both of them. And Instagram, same thing, Jeremy Asbrock. I have a TikTok account. I'm not very active. You can follow that if you like, but I can't guarantee that there's going to be regular content on there.
Very good. Well, we will be looking for you on the road, which is really great. The last song that we said we were going to discuss is a song with Ace, and it was Origins, which is Volume 2, and it's the song She.
Yeah, so that was a track that was added at the last minute, and they sent us just a click track and Ace playing guitar. And the funny thing is Ace played the arrangement wrong. So we called the producer and like, man, he's missing a part in here. And he's like, just go ahead and play it, and we'll fix his part in the end. So like we cut the whole song, and, you know, the song is like a 3-part harmony. So me and Ryan and Phil sang it together, and then, you know, they dropped Ace's solo in, and it's like, wow, man, we're on an Ace record. This is awesome. And it's playing a Kiss song.
Wow, that is great. That is really great. Well, it has been a pleasure to have you on. It has been even more of a pleasure to meet you in person. And
likewise.
Yes, and I wish you the best with everything that you're getting involved in, and keep doing your manifestations because they truly work.
Oh, I do. It's a daily thing. It's the first thing I do in the morning when I wake up.
Very cool. Well, thank you again. We're going to roll out with the song She by Ace Frehley. Thank you again, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
enchanted starlight. Never going home. I know she's going down, going. Everybody knows she's so good. Doing well for others. She doesn't really know the power's all within her. She takes off her clothes. I know she's going down, going. Everybody knows she's so good. Doing well for others. She doesn't really know the power's all within her. She takes off her clothes. I know she's going down, going. Everybody knows she's so good.
You have been listening to Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium, Dream Central Station, LLC. My audio editor is Al Hemberger at the Loft Recording Studios in Bronxville, New York. This is WNEW 102.7 FM radio.